everyone, welcome back to another episode of Strip by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. My name is Steph Sia. I am the host of the show. You may know me on stage. I go by the stage name Kim and Chi, and I'm also a digital content creator, so I do an OnlyFans, which I've had for a couple of years now, and I was also a former sugar baby back in the day. And that's just a little bit about me in terms of sex work. I have been doing this podcast for the past couple of years, interviewing different guests in all facets and all different forms of sex work, whether they're dancers, they're cam girls, directors, producers, bouncers, whoever. I really want to be able to provide a really holistic approach to sex work so we can begin to normalize and destigmatize this industry. So that's just a little bit about me, but I'm really excited to have recently connected with today's guest, and I am so excited to talk about the topic we're going to be talking about today, which is cosplay and sex work. And as a former anime geek, like back in the day, like I've been dying to speak about this topic for so long, but I just never really had an audience. But then I realized I do have an audience for this, and I'm just seeing more and more girls getting into cosplay, which I think is really, really cool, and or incorporating that into sex work. So enough of me rambling. I really, really am excited to introduce everyone to this week's guest. She goes by the name of Serena Rayne, and she is based in Alberta, Canada. And I think she's wonderful. I've peeped and creeped her Instagram as research for the past couple of weeks, and I'm really excited to connect with her. So, Serena, are you there?
I sure am.
Hi, it's so nice to meet you.
Hi. You too.
I've heard so many great things, and basically, you're requested to be on the show by the Liquid Cherry Strip, which was last week's episode. Mike is a great friend of mine, and he's like, you have to interview this girl in some form or capacity. And I was like, who is this person? And then I was like, oh, I'm already following her on Instagram.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I was like, oh yeah, she does like all the anime stuff, like super cool. And I just can't wait to get to know more about you, like where you come from, what your story is. All I know is that you are a dancer based out of Alberta, and you incorporate cosplay into your own form of sex work. Yeah, like please tell the audience, like, in your own words and in your own terms, like define who you are, however you want to describe yourself.
Yeah, so basically I am an exotic entertainer, dancer, stripper, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been dancing for just about 7 years now. I think October will be 7 years.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you. Yeah,
Amazing.
I started at Fresh 18. That's the legal age out here in Alberta. So not long after my 18th birthday, I just kind of decided, you know what, like, I'm going to give it a shot. That's always been sort of a dream of mine, just to be up on stage and performing. I love that aspect of it.
Oh, wow. Like, did you ever have any, like, prior or previous, like, dance experience or anything like that at all? Have you been on a stage before, like, competing or anything like that prior to doing dancing? Yeah? Tell us.
I was a competitive dancer all throughout my childhood. Tap, jazz, ballet, hip-hop, you name it, I pretty much did it.
Everything under the sun.
Yeah, and then after that, I was a cheerleader for several years too. So.
Oh, me too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, well, in British Columbia at least, but yeah, like I was doing cheerleading more on like the university, and yeah, so much fun. I miss those days.
I do too. I did 3 years in high school, and then I did, I think, 3 or 4 years after that on an all-star team.
Oh, wow. So you must be crazy good for all the tumbling and all the amazing things.
Actually, I was a terrible tumbler. I was tiny, so they just tossed me around and called it good.
I sucked at tumbling. If anyone's listening and doesn't know what tumbling is, all the crazy back flips and all like the crazy somersaults they do in the air, and that's basically what it is. So, yeah. And I'm assuming you were probably a top?
Yeah, I was.
There we go. Yeah. I was a base. You're like, you look strong and you're bigger than the other girls. And I'm like, okay, I guess. Like, slightly offended, but okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, right? It's like, thanks for the compliment. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool that you had such an artistic background too, especially with dance. That always lends a hand to anyone dancing on stage. Although dance experience is not required, or any kind of flexibility training not required, but it can be helpful in the type of show that you produce, which we're gonna get into soon enough. So
yeah, definitely. I found it really helped. I was really comfortable in front of a crowd to begin with, so it was really easy for me to kind of make that transition.
Totally. Like, did you ever think about, I guess, like stripping? Like, what you mentioned, this is something that you always wanted to do. Like, in what aspect? In terms of the sex work aspect, in terms of like the money aspect, obviously, or just like being an exhibitionist and being like, okay, cool, I'm really cool, like, you know, being naked in front of everyone.
It's kind of hard to explain. I used to joke about it all the time in high school. I got really, really good grades. Like, I was super smart. So everybody's like, oh, you're going to go to university. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And I was like, nah, I'm just going to be a stripper. And back then it was kind of a joke.
Oh my
god! But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, actually, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. Like, I just get to go up there. I get to wear all these costumes. And I get to just, like, dance and perform and do my thing and be impressive. Like, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. So I guess, like, as you said, fresh out of 18, like, you were like, okay, I'm going to try this. And we're going to do it. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so what's the process like in Alberta, I guess, if you were wanting to audition or if you wanted to work at a club?
So basically, I personally went down to the club that I wanted to work at, and they had an amateur night. So you just get up on stage and you kind of just do your thing, give it a try. Amateur night ended up not going the night that I was there. There wasn't enough girls that signed up.
No.
So I talked to the manager, and I was like, hey, I really want to do amateur contest. And he was just like, why don't you just start dancing?
Oh.
So yeah, he helped me. We have an agency out here. You just call the agency. They help you get your license through your city or through them. Mm-hmm. And then from there, once you have a license to work, you pretty much just show up and you start freelancing. So basically, it's just you do lap dances or VIP dances.
Oh, okay. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
So that's how you began. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Continue.
You kind of start there, and then you go after work or before work or to a studio, and you start practicing your stage routines, pole, whatever you're going to do. And once you're good enough, you kind of talk to the manager and you say, hey, I'd like to start booking stage. And then you get an audition, and they like, yeah, you're good for this club, and this club, but not this one. You need to be at a higher level or whatever.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I forgot. Like, yeah, I've done a couple episodes with other Alberta-based strippers, and I forgot. Yeah, you need to have a license there. Like, I remember like hearing about like I think you go to like City Hall and like apply. Yeah. That's really cool. Really different than how it's done in British Columbia, but also like other parts of the world too. So yeah, that's really cool. Thanks for sharing some of that insight too.
Absolutely.
And I remember you mentioning, oh yeah, like I get to be on stage, be impressive, and I get to wear all these amazing costumes, which is totally the topic we're going to be talking about today is costumes and cosplay specifically. I don't know if you want to give the audience a little background about, well, what cosplay is in case people are not like familiar with that term or what it is, but maybe if you want to branch off into that aspect of your life, I feel like we might need a little bit of background.
Yeah, for sure. So cosplay is just costume play. Mm-hmm. It's smashed together into one word. Mm-hmm. Basically, you dress up in different costumes of characters you've seen in movies or TV. It originally started as a big thing in Japan where people would dress up as their favorite anime characters.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, like, Sailor Moon is a really popular one. That one's, like, I feel like almost every girl that grew up in the 90s grew up watching Sailor Moon.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was kind of where that all started. Sailor Moon was probably the first anime I ever watched, and I was like, wow, like, I want to dress up like that one day.
Yeah.
And, you know, people get to do it for Halloween and things like that. But I wanted to do more. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I started looking into it, and there's actually like a huge cosplay community of just people who go to cons or conventions where you can dress up in costumes, or you don't have to, but you can. Mm-hmm. And you get to connect with some really awesome, like-minded people, trade some tips on how to build your own costumes, or good websites to buy them from, or if somebody's taking custom commissions for costumes.
Right. Yeah, I never even thought about it that way. So cool. So, like, I guess if I'm getting this chronologically, you discovered anime, or Sailor Moon, or whatever anime that you were into. I was also a really big Sailor Moon fan. Also, sidebar, does your stage name have anything to do with cosplay too? Because Serena was like Sailor Moon too.
It actually doesn't.
It doesn't. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe by some strange coincidence, it was like, okay, like maybe this is part of her story. Like that would be really cool. Okay, so you discovered anime. Do you have any favorites, or like what were you into? I'm just curious because I used to be like a big anime fan growing up.
So I really liked Studio Ghibli films. So Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yes. Totoro.
My Neighbor Totoro, that's a huge one.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's, like, those are what I grew up with. That Sailor Moon, Inuyasha.
Yes. Oh my god, Inuyasha.
Dragon Ball Z.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's kind of what I grew up on, and these days I'm into... Not different, but still different. There's one on Netflix even. It's called 7 Deadly Sins. I've been hooked on that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have to add it to my roster.
It's so good.
I just need new shows to watch. I mean, I personally haven't watched anime since I was like, maybe, like a kid. So maybe up until I was maybe 11 or 12 or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I grew like you. I grew up with Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z. I don't know if you ever watched Slayer or like Fushigi Yugi, or like there's another one I like called Karekano. There's another one I like called Wedding Peach that used the same illustrators as Sailor Moon. There was like there was so much I used to watch, and I was heavily influenced by like my siblings because they were older than me, and they would just like bring home all these different anime, and we'd have to like read the subtitles and stuff like that back in the day. But I remember like, and this is a sidebar for everyone listening, I apologize, but I remember like, and why this goes in so well with the topic was that I remember for Halloween one year, do you remember the anime Cardcaptor Sakura? Yes. So and she had so many amazing costumes in the show. And I remember there was this one outfit that I really liked. It was like red with bows and everything, and then like she wore this choker with a giant like bell that I think was really popular back then. And I remember trying to cosplay that for Halloween. And I remember like back in the day when I was growing up, like cosplay was like not popular. Like anime in general was not popular at all. And I remember this is probably my last Halloween, and then someone was like, "What are you?" And I'm just like, "I'm Sakura from Cardcaptor Sakura," and they're like, "What? Huh?
What is that?
Like English, please? Like, what are you saying?"
I got that all the time too. Like, what is that supposed to be? Oh, it's from an anime. Oh, okay, cool. And just left it at that.
Yeah, the conversation just like dies after that.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I'm so glad you can relate to that too, because like, I mean, that was probably, I mean, as far as I went with cosplay, but you obviously took it further. So your interest in anime was like, okay, well maybe like, I don't know how you were connected with other cosplayers, but maybe you were on forums or connected with people online, or like how did that part spawn out of your interest for anime?
That's kind of a tough question. It was always just something that I really liked doing, but never thought of as like something I could do professionally or like even outside of Halloween, really. So before I started stripping, I started working at a company that did princess parties for kids.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah. So I kind of used that as the springboard. I started working there, dressing up as different princesses or popular movie characters and going to kids' birthday parties and having like princess tea parties with them and things like that.
Oh, that's so cute.
And then I was like, oh, okay, so like there is a little more of a market for like grown-up dress-ups.
Grown-up dress-up, I love it.
Yeah, and so from there I started hand sewing all my own costumes, and then I got a sewing machine and started sewing some other ones that I saw in movies. I was like, wow, I really love that dress, or whatever it was. And yeah, that kind of translated into dancing. I started making a couple of my own costumes that I based on like popular characters, and
and now here we are. Like
here we are.
Now we're on this show talking about this. Like, so cool.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. Like, when you were first starting to build and create your own costumes, was that really difficult in the beginning? Were you just kind of just testing things out or just trying things here and there? Or were there any like guides or tutorials online that you can refer to? Or like, what's your process in that?
Back then, I used to buy clothes that were as similar to what I was looking for as possible. So if I was doing, say, a Rapunzel cosplay, I'd go out to like Value Village and try to find like a purple dress that I could cut up and add things to it. My sewing skill wasn't quite to the level that it's at now, so I really had to like sit down and hand sew things or just find a way to modify things.
Right.
But now there's like a ton of great resources out there. One in particular is Kamui Cosplay.
Okay.
She sells tons and tons and tons of cosplay books and sewing templates and just generally like awesome resources for cosplay.
Oh, cool. Wow.
Yeah.
It's so nice to hear how much the cosplay industry has really, really evolved. Like, this never existed before.
No, it didn't.
No. Because there's so much craftsmanship and artistry that goes into making each costume, whether it is for your cosplay or whether even they're just like regular clothes and whatnot. I know, and I suck at sewing. Like, hand sewing is like the worst. Like,
it's terrible. It's such a pain.
It takes so long, and I just like, oh my goodness, I do not have the patience for this right now. But you said you didn't have many skills before. Were you then self-taught, or did you find some guides online too, or like take any classes to get you to where you are now, and then to even like graduate with like a sewing machine, like to upgrade? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
So I am completely self-taught. I just do things over and over and over and over again until they stop sucking.
That is pure talent, for sure.
It's a lot of long nights, a lot of busted needles and sore thumbs, but it also kind of tied back into my stripping because I really wanted to create like super beautiful, super unique stage costumes that I couldn't find anywhere. And some of the costume ladies that make stripper costumes they didn't understand my vision. So I'd get something and I'm like, this is nice, but it's not really what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So I just kind I just kind of took matters into my own hands and started sewing my own costumes.
I love that. That's so cool because, like, costumes are such a huge part of being a dancer. Like, oh my gosh, I'm always in awe of, like, some of the costumes that, you know, a lot of feature dancers that they have. I'm like, oh my gosh, like a 5-piece set. And, like, you could just see if you look at the detailing at some of these pieces, like, they are gorgeous. And they're also not cheap as well.
No. I have several $1,000 costumes.
Yes.
It adds up quickly, you know, because it's one thing to spend money on the materials, and then you have to pay, if you're not making your own, you pay for the labor that goes into it. You pay for all the extras, like if you want more pieces, or if you want, like, bling on them, if you want specific, like, connectors for the bras or the panties or different pieces.
Yeah.
It adds up quick.
It definitely adds up quick, and it's such an investment, you know, like,
yeah.
And I feel like, and I'm totally one of those, well, for me, I'm describing myself, I'm not calling everyone that's like this, but I'm one of those lazy dancers that just likes really nice lingerie and uses that as, like, my getup, but I'm always in, like, just complete admiration of some of the beautiful costumes that I've seen and shared the stage with. So, like, props to you. And props to all the costume people out there too. Wow. When you started making your own costumes for the stage, was that like a game changer for you, or did that change your stage presence in any way, or at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, it was the first one that I'm, like, really, really proud of. I kept my graduation dress.
Oh my gosh.
And I hacked it up, and I made a little mermaid costume out of it because it's bright green, so I used it as the tail.
Oh, that's the one that I screenshotted to use for questions on my account, I think. That is gorgeous. That was your grad dress before?
It was, yeah.
What? Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Wow. Like, how, like, okay, I'm just really curious about, like, your process. Like, when you have a vision for something, how do you go about tackling that? Because to me, as someone who doesn't sew, it just seems so complicated. Where do you even start?
I usually start by, like, sketching out kind of the idea that I have in my head. And inspiration usually comes from a song or a set that I like, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had this costume so I could use this song on stage.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so, like, the thing that started the Little Mermaid costume was I heard a metal cover of Poor Unfortunate Souls.
Oh.
And I was like, I have to dance to this.
Yeah.
Like, I just had to. So, I looked around my house, and I was like, well, like, you know, I don't really know what to do. So I just started drawing, and I was like, I need it to be easy to move in, so I can't have an actual mermaid tail.
Mm-hmm.
Can't really walk in one of those 9-inch heels, but and then I saw my grad dress. It was just hanging up in the closet, and it was bright green like the Little Mermaid's tail, and I was like, you know what, like, I bet I could chop that up and make something really cool out of it, because the skirt on the bottom is really full, and it kind of almost looks like seaweed or sea foam or something.
Yeah.
And then I just sketched something out in my little drawing pad, and then I was like, okay, that's good enough, and I started in with my scissors.
Oh my gosh. Aren't you ever, like, nervous about, especially if you're about to hack something up, like, aren't you nervous about, like, oh my gosh, like, there's no undo button on this? Like,
yeah, definitely. I definitely took my time with that one, because it was, first of all, a very expensive dress, and second of all, only, like, my second ever big costume that I had tried to make.
No way. That's ballsy.
Yeah.
Wow, I am so impressed.
I figured it would be okay, because all I was doing really was cutting, like, the corset top off, and then just kind of adding adding a nice finish to the edge. Mm-hmm. So I was like, it should be okay.
I guess, like, in theory, the way that you're explaining it, it sounds simple enough. Have you ever had, like, times where you just, like, completely fucked up, though? Like, you're just like, oh, shit, there goes, like, a waste of X amount of hundreds of dollars of fabric, or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was making a Pokemon trainer cosplay.
Fun.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I'm going to do an ice type. I had this really cool blue, I think it's called Minky. It's, like, super soft and super fuzzy.
Ooh.
And so I was like, oh, this will be so cute for, like, an ice trainer Pokemon. And I have this really nice icy blue, like, satin that I can trim it with. And I started sewing, and then I realized I didn't leave a seam allowance. No. So it ended up being way too small. It was so tight I couldn't even put it on.
No.
Yeah, and so I didn't realize until I was done and went to put it on. I was like, why doesn't this fit?
Oh, my God. That's so devastating and disappointing. No.
Yeah, it was a little bit of fabric, which was whatever, you know, it happens. But it was more so the time that I put in. I was like, I just put like 3-4 days into sewing this, like, elaborate jacket, and it doesn't even fit.
Yeah, I really was curious and wanted to ask you that next, actually, about, like, what's the general lead time for projects and for outfits? And I know it can probably vary from costume to costume, but generally speaking.
Generally speaking, I would say it takes me about 2 weeks to go from the sketch to the finished project.
Oh, wow. And, like, how many costumes are you making? Because I can't imagine, like, that, it's just you making them, so it's very time-consuming.
Yeah, I just make them for myself, so it's just kind of whenever inspiration hits. It's not, it's nothing too major.
Totally.
The biggest project was actually my hentai costume.
Ooh.
And
talk to us about that.
I just had this idea. I was like watching, so we do big competitions out here. We do like Miss Nude Alberta. I'm sure they do like Miss Nude BC or Miss Nude West Coast out there.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Or we used to, because now that venue is closed. So when we'll see what happens.
But yeah, we have like Miss Nude Alberta out here. And so I really wanted to do like an anime themed show. So I was like, I'm gonna do a hentai show. Like, screw it. And so I made like this cute little like almost like maid outfit, but it's got like a big bow on the back made out of like a faux tentacle, and
of course with a tentacle
over it, and it went over well, but a lot of people didn't really understand what it was. So.
Right, that's the only problem. It's like people are not going to understand things sometimes with like, well, now I think that anime and manga and like hentai, like all that stuff to me is commonplace, especially now with the internet, like, and Reddit and like Discord and so many different forums and stuff like that. Like, it's like common knowledge in my opinion, but still depending on where you are, and some places in Alberta too are just like, what's that? What's
I also find that, like, you know, hentai doesn't necessarily mean just tentacles. It just means strange or outside of the normal. So when you're going on stage dressed as a cute little maid girl coming out of a box that says sex bot and you've got tentacles everywhere, people are like, what is going on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know what? And since we're talking about competitions, anything really goes for competitions.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously, I've seen some, like, really cool stuff when I did, I think it was Miss Nude West. Yeah, it was Miss Nude West Coast. And I remember, what was her name? Dancer. I don't even know if she's dancing anymore. Bailey? I can't remember her other, there's like two names. Bailey, but I'm sure a lot of BC people will know what I'm talking about. But she did this crazy, like, bloody, and it was like near Halloween too, so it was like so cool to see her spewing out all this like fake blood that she like made out of, I don't even know what it was, but there was like bloody everything, and it was just like gory and fun, and I feel bad for the person dancing after that, because I'm sure like it was a bitch to clean up.
Yeah, we've had a few like really cool, really crazy shows. Like we had one girl, Lemon Drop. Actually, I think she comes and dances out there too.
Oh.
She did like a full-on Saw show, like from the movie Saw. She came out as Jigsaw on her little tricycle, and like there was fake blood and glitter, and it was super gory and super amazing.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome! Like, if anyone gets a chance to see any like stripper Olympics or any kind of like Miss Nude or any kind of like exotic dance type of competition, definitely go and see it, because it's not your standard everyday like me in lingerie kind of thing. Like, they're full on shows with themes and everything. It's just like so amazing.
Right? Shameless little plug here. September 27th to October 2nd is Stripper Olympics in Alberta at Shade in Edmonton.
There we go. And I'm so glad you picked up on my prompt. That was perfect. Are you competing?
Yes, I am.
Oh my gosh. Are you allowed to say what you're planning, or are we going to keep it tight-lipped?
It's close enough now I can say it. Mm-hmm. I am doing a Nightmare Before Christmas show.
No, I love Tim Burton. I love that movie. Like, that's so cool. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see like your photos at least.
Oh yeah, those are coming very soon. I just I'm booking a photo shoot. I've got like most of the pieces ready. I've got all my stage props ready. I've got my music picked out.
Oh my gosh. I am so excited for you. This sounds so freaking epic. So cool.
Yeah. I can't wait. It's been like the little brainchild for the last 2 years that I've just been slowly working on and adjusting, tweaking, trying to find new things like from the movie even to bring into the show.
Yeah. So. Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm like just trying to picture what this would even look like. Oh my gosh, I'm excited.
It's gonna be, hopefully it's gonna be amazing.
Well, I wish you all the best. I mean, break a leg. So, because by the time this episode's out, like there'll be a few more weeks at least until Stripper Olympics happen. So if you are in Canada, be sure to make your way over to Shade. Shout out. Yeah. Well, besides stage, do you ever incorporate cosplay into some of your OnlyFans work as well?
Yes, I do actually.
Ooh, what has like the response been like there for you?
I feel like most people who do follow me on OnlyFans understand who I am as a person, and I'm very nerdy, I'm very geeky, so I think it was kind of expected, so it was generally very well received.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I did May the 4th. Like, May the 4th be with you, so I had a bunch of Star Wars costumes.
Fun.
And that one went over really, really well.
Yeah, usually quite popular, I would say.
Yeah.
Do you advertise anywhere else? Like, on Reddit or, like, any other, like, subculture kind of niche-y type forums or anything like that? Or, like, Reddit or Twitter?
I don't have a Twitter. I don't really use my Snapchat. I was on Reddit for a little bit, but I got booted out of a couple groups because I guess I didn't read the rules properly.
Oh, that happens to me all the time.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much just on Instagram for now.
Yeah. Because I feel like you would have so much potential. Like, there's so many, like, cosplay dedicated accounts out there that people just, like, fangirl, fanboy over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I feel like you would do so well, because like the work that I've seen just on your Instagram alone is just so inspiring and amazing. I'm just like so cool. I'm nerding out right now, as you can tell.
Well, thank you.
Do you ever take any requests? Like, do fans ever request anything for you, or like anything like that?
Yeah, so especially if I'm going to be doing con appearances, I always kind of let people know that I'm going to be there, and then I'm like, hey, like, what costumes do you guys want to see? So
yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to ask you about that. Like, do you actually attend any like anime conventions or anything like that?
Yeah, so I do Anime-thon and usually the Edmonton Expo as well.
Right. Yeah, like I know that here in Vancouver there was like a couple one, like Anime Evolution and anime something, and you can just know, because like back in the day when I used to work at a hotel, it was right by the convention center, and it would be like breakfast and you just see people in costume and maybe like must be like anime expo or something.
Yeah.
It's like, it was always so interesting because you see all these people in costume and then it'd be mixed in with like the corporate crowd.
That would be amazing to see.
Yeah, just like the very, very, very confused look on people's faces was always like priceless.
Just your regular everyday businessman sitting down having breakfast across the table from like 02 from Darling in the Franxx.
It's amazing. Well, I want to like flip the conversation to like, this is all fun and light and stuff too, and like, yes, like a lot of the work that we do in sex work is playing dress up, and even just not even taking it in the sex work context, but also in general as a cosplayer, it is like being costume. It's like Halloween every day or whenever like you choose to dress up, right? And I think that's awesome. I think that's great. I think it's a really awesome way of expressing yourself, your artistry, and who you are and your creativity. But I mean, in recent years and with BLM and everything that's going on politically, at what point is it no longer dress up and you're like appropriating at some point? Like, when is that? There's such a fine line with that sometimes.
Yeah, there really is. The way I look at it, the way I personally see it, is as long as it's done in a positive manner, mm-hmm. and it's not hurting anybody, and you're not, if you're not Asian fishing, basically, if you're just, dressing up as that character, mm-hmm. I think, personally, I believe that that's okay, especially if it's like a fictional character with like pink hair or something that can't be seen as real. Mm-hmm. Like they're very obviously not a real person, and maybe they're racially ambiguous, like,
Mm-hmm. No, I got you. And I feel like, and I can't say it's for all anime, because a lot of anime is based on like, real life Japan or whatnot, or wherever it may be, right? But a lot of like the fantasy, like, it's very fictional, and those are very obvious, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with you in that sense. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, I think as long as you're respectful about it, then for the most part, it's okay. If you're doing it in an appreciative way, I would say, and respecting the culture behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I personally, when I did my hentai show, I picked more of like a fictional type of character. So I picked like a sex bot.
Yeah.
It was just this made up robot that's designed in the basement of a sex shop in Tokyo. Like, that was kind of my line. Like, okay, I can't be Asian fishing in this, so I have to just look very cartoony, very anime, keep it very unrealistic.
Right, yeah, keep it unrealistic for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's really hard, because like with, I guess specifically with anime, and also specifically with like hentai or manga, you can't, it's like really hard to separate the culture out of that, because it was born in Japanese culture, right? And there are so many stereotypes that come with Japanese culture as well, which I think sometimes it's like treading on really like dangerous lines. Sometimes they're too, depending on what it is. Did you want to elaborate a little bit on that as well?
Yeah, so I know that there are certain cultures, like for example, Native Americans, who the headdress is very sacred to. It has a very specific meaning.
Yes.
Things like that. And that's where you get into the cultural appropriation, because you're taking something that is very culturally significant and using it to play dress up, so it feels disrespectful.
Yes, yes.
Whereas if you stick to more of the fantasy realm of the Japanese culture, it's a little more acceptable, as long as you're not... even geisha cosplays, I find, are on that line of cultural appropriation, because geishas were a very prominent thing in Japanese culture.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's kind of where that line is for me. You know, you wouldn't dress up in like a full kimono and the full geisha makeup and everything without understanding the meaning behind it.
Totally, yeah. Oh, I agree with that for sure. It's really hard sometimes too, especially when, say, something like a kimono has been streamlined into like fashion, like in terms of like robes and stuff too, where I feel like that may be acceptable because it's not even anywhere close to what an actual kimono is like. If you actually dress up in one, it's like quite a process to get into a traditional kimono.
Yeah.
So I feel like that in that kind of aspect, it's a little bit okay.
Yeah, it's less about the culture than it's more about just you're wearing a robe and it's just comfortable, it's open, it's...
Exactly. I think, because I wear kimonos on stage as like a cover up as well, but also because my name is Kimchi as well, but I'm also Asian though too, so I feel like, nah. But I think where it gets murky is like, okay, if you're wearing a kimono and then you add like chopsticks in your hair and you're doing some kind of bow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gimmicky and almost offensive.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely gimmicky and offensive for sure. Like, it's so tricky now. But I feel like if you ask yourself the question, like, does this make me uncomfortable? Then you probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right. Do you often ask yourself questions like that too?
I do, yeah. I wanted to do like a Pocahontas costume when I first started. And I was like, well, is that really appropriate, knowing like the proper history behind that? And I was like, you know what, like, I just don't think so. I'm very pale, I have blue eyes, at the time I had blonde hair. I was like, that's not appropriate.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was actually gonna bring up the Pocahontas reference as well, because I feel like back when we were growing up, that was just something you dressed up for Halloween, and that was just something you did before. But then now, like, we're so woke, and it's just like, that is really not okay. Even that movie is just like, not okay.
No, they completely warped the true story behind it to fit a narrative.
Of course, it's Disney.
It is. It's Disney.
I'm still a Disney fan, but some of the older movies, I'm like, whew, as an adult, I'm just like, I don't know if I support this.
Yeah.
A little uncomfortable. But going back to what you were saying, too, I don't know, and I don't want to assume that you're white, but you're definitely white presenting. Do you ever feel uncomfortable being white presenting, or if you are white, doing some parts of cosplay at all, or...
I do try to pick characters that suit my look, or are very fantasy-based and completely open to interpretation.
Totally.
So, like, a fairy could be anything.
Yes.
So, for me, that's not any kind of appropriation or anything like that. It's just a little pretty girl with wings. And that's kind of my comfort zone, or my preferred comfort zone. It's just something that can't really be construed as anything else.
Totally. And you do a great job at fairies. I've seen on your Instagram, like, this is so perfect. Like a real life fairy.
Cute.
Totally on brand. I think it's great. And just to kind of make it clear, I think that cosplay is accessible for anyone. Doesn't matter what race you are or anything like that. I think it's great, and I think it's a great way to kind of be introduced to other cultures and other stories and and fantasies too. It's fun. As you said, going back to the lightheartedness of it all, it is playing dress up, right?
Yeah. And that's kind of what I feel it's all about, is just putting on a costume and being somebody else for the day. Like,
yes,
you can be whoever you want to be. And, you know, there's nothing stating that, you know, just because the character that you're cosplaying is super thin with blonde hair, that you can't cosplay that if you don't look like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very open to interpretation. If you resonate with that character for whatever reason, you just like their outfit, put it on, wear it, go to a convention, have fun. That's what those are supposed to be about.
Exactly. Have fun. I love that. I'm gonna I want to keep things on a high note. I was gonna like go into a whole topic about fetishization, but I feel like I've done that in other episodes, and maybe I'll keep that aspect for, I don't know, I'm not sure if you're, and I'm still familiarizing myself with it too, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with like waifu.
Yes.
Yes. I feel like that is another episode in and of itself, and that can really go hand in hand with fetishization. For sure.
It definitely can, yeah.
Yeah, like we don't have enough time for that today. But
Yeah.
and I wanted to keep it nice and light too. I feel like I've done so many advocacy episodes and so much political episodes too, that like it's nice to mix things up a little bit too. But also, I mean, we got into like appropriation and some of the harder topics there, which I also think it's really important to talk about. But I have had so much fun talking to you about your process, about like everything that you do in terms of cosplay, and like intertwining that with sex work. I think that's so freaking cool. But there's
definitely made it more interesting, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. There's a bunch of questions that came in as well, and they're all over the board. So I guess we can kind of go into that next.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so the first one is, what is your favorite anime?
Ooh. My all-time favorite, like just across the board, it has to be Seven Deadly Sins.
Okay, you're saying this again, and now I feel like I have to watch this. Okay.
It's got everything. It's got magic, it's got romance, it's got demons and angels and plot twists.
Ooh.
And it's amazing.
What's the premise for the show?
Basically, it's about a group of disgraced knights from 3,000 years ago who are working to restore their title, and they are working with the princess of the kingdom.
Ooh, cool. Very fantasy-like. Okay.
I don't want to give too much away, because if I say too much more, it'll ruin it.
I can tell you're holding back. Okay, so I'm gonna have to do some homework and report back to you. I'm so excited. Where are we at? Okay, this is an open-ended question. So, in terms of like cosplaying in sex work, how far do you take it? I know we kind of briefly touched on this earlier, but if there's anything else you want to add, feel free to add it in now.
If I could do all cosplay outfits for all of my shows, I absolutely would.
Yes.
But I do know that a lot of people don't understand it, so I do tame it down, and I have some of the more generic costumes as well.
Yes. Yes. Generic costumes, French maid, schoolgirl.
Yeah.
What a fireman.
The police officer.
Yes. But those are fun too. Those are fun.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
They never get old, right? Classic.
Classic, for sure.
Should sex workers try to be more ethical in their use of cosplay? Yeah, it's an interesting question.
I think that all around it's a fantasy world.
Yes.
So, you know, even just within the four walls of a strip club, it's very much a fantasy. And as long as there's no harm being done, I don't see a problem with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I do believe, like, and this is where it gets tricky, because I believe in, like, freedom of expression, and, you know, if you want to dress up like Pocahontas, dress up like Pocahontas. But then again, that's a really bad example because of
The
all of
implications.
the cultural implications associated.
Right. Yeah. I think even just going back to what you said too, it's based in fantasy. That's just like sex work in general. We're role playing a fantasy.
Yes.
So like I feel people and patrons need to understand that degree of separation and understand the roles that we are both playing as somebody on stage or provider, and their role as the customer.
Yeah, definitely.
And it ends there. Oh gosh. Another serious question here, or what I think is maybe more serious, but we know that fetishization of stereotypes sells, but can you use it to can you use it to your own advantage and make money off of it without any damage? Or is it contributing to a harmful behavior and therefore should be made more ethical, even if it means being financially less interesting?
Ooh.
That's a big one. I feel like there's like a couple questions in there.
That's a very well thought out question.
Yes, very. Thank you, listener.
I believe that if you fit a certain stereotype, so for example, I'm very small and very petite, I'm very anime looking, to be honest. I've got the eyes, I can do my makeup a certain way, and I can play to that.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as I personally keep it based in the fantasy, like very much an anime character and not so much Asian fishing,
mm-hmm.
then I do believe that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But when it gets into things like more to the cultural side of things, then I think that's where you hit a little bit of an ethical issue.
Yeah.
So I personally wouldn't be willing to do a Pocahontas costume or a Native American outfit, regardless of the amount of money that would be involved.
Yeah, it just like doesn't feel right.
It doesn't.
Yeah, we have morals too.
Absolutely.
And I just want to go back to what you said too, because I know you said it earlier too, but I just wanted you to maybe define it, because this is a term I've never heard of until now. But you keep mentioning the term Asian fishing. Is that kind of like catfishing, but pretending that you're Asian, or like?
Yeah. So it's I've seen it a lot. This is going to be really bad. I've seen it a lot on TikTok or even on certain Instagram posts.
Yes.
People will use like face tape to slightly alter their facial structure or the way their facial structure appears.
What?
Going from more typically Asian features such as like the more slanted eyes or the very narrow chins, things like that. What? And so that's when it kind of gets into the Asian fishing, when you're not Asian but trying to present as Asian.
Oh, wow. That is weird. As an Asian person, that is fucking weird. Like, that makes me so uncomfortable. But yeah, I've seen so much horrendous crap on like TikTok.
Yeah, exactly.
Disturbing content. That's so interesting. Oh my gosh. I guess people do that. I mean, I know, and this is a side question, but like, where do you think that comes from? Do you think it's because, one, they're trying to imitate our culture, or is it two, because they actually really want to be Asian?
I think it's a little bit of both, honestly, and I think this actually ties back into the fetishization of Asian cultures and Japanese cultures.
Yes.
There's such a hot thing right now. Back when I was a kid or a teenager or whatever, it wasn't cool to watch anime, and you were like made fun of, you were a nerd.
Yes.
And now that it's become popular, I think people kind of want to almost get in on that, like, oh, like, look, I'm nerdy too, but they go about it the wrong way.
Yeah, that's definitely the wrong way. Please don't do that, anyone listening. Please no.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Oh gosh. gross. I can like open up a whole can of worms on that topic, but I'm going to choose not to right now. So, but thank you for defining that, because I was like, I've never heard of this term before. This is new to me. So, constantly learning. Okay, so this is going back to costumes. So, how can I make a Spider-Man outfit look authentic but functions well in pole dancing? So I feel like they're asking for like sticky grip, probably.
There's this stuff called gecko fabric.
Oh.
And it's used to make a lot of like pole dance leggings and stuff like that. I'm not 100% sure that you can buy yards of fabric like that, but it's basically just almost like the little rubber grips on the bottom of some socks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that all over, and then it sticks to the pole, so you're not just sliding off.
Yes, because when you wear any kind of cloth, you will fall down. You will slide.
Yeah, it does not work, no matter how hard you try.
Gecko grip?
Yeah, gecko grip.
Gecko grip. I love how you already just like knew about that. That's so cool.
I have been contemplating a Spider-Gwen costume for quite some time, but I was running into the same issue.
There we go. There we go. Cool. Okay, so a couple questions here. So I know you mentioned earlier you don't sell your costumes. You just make it for yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So maybe we'll just... because the original question was, how do you feel when a costume idea doesn't sell well? So maybe we can just change this question to, how do you feel when a costume idea doesn't, the outcome isn't what you expected? Yeah. If it doesn't turn out the way that you want it to be.
So I'm going to go back to my hentai costume, because that is the perfect freaking example.
Yeah.
So I was super stoked on it. I was so pumped about this idea. I loved it. And I did it for a big contest show. It was like my big dramatic reveal, and it just kind of fell flat because people didn't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Or didn't understand what it was. And it was honestly, it was a little bit soul crushing.
No.
I was just so excited for it. And then when people were like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's fine."
Oh my god. No. I want to see pictures of this if you have any. Like, this sounds so freaking cool.
There's a couple up on my Instagram.
Okay, I will creep further later. Oh, I forgot to say the second part of the question there, but how do you get past those emotions? Like when it doesn't work out?
I just remember that everything I do isn't going to be for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was really important to me. I was super stoked on it. I still loved it. It's okay that not everybody got it, or not that not everybody understood it.
Right. That's a good way of coping, I think. Because just in general, as sex workers, like, not everyone's going to like you.
Yeah.
It's just like the way it is.
Yeah, that was probably like the best advice I got when I started dancing, was that, don't take any rejection personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because I remember, I think I've said this before too. It's a quote that I like to use, but like, you could be the juiciest peach and the most tastiest peach ever, but there's always going to be someone that doesn't like peaches.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so don't harbor too long on those emotions. Don't stay in that train of thought too long. You're just kind of like, oh, that sucks, and you got to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is so much fun to chat with you. Oh my gosh, like, I feel like we could go on forever, but we'd probably just be going on so many tangents.
Definitely.
But you were so sweet. Like, this is so much fun. I want to keep going, but the hour is almost up, so I want to ask you, where can we find you?
I'm on Instagram, Serena_Rayne, RAYNE_SGH. That's pretty much it right now online.
I'm so happy to have connected with you. I am so sure that many more people are going to want to check out what exactly the heck we're talking about, because honestly, you guys just need to see the pictures and the videos. Like, Serena, your craftsmanship is amazing. I'll just say that.
Thank you.
It's incredible and so much hard work, and like you've really I really appreciate you sharing your process, your vision, like how you go about doing this, and like how you have made this into like your own thing and your own, like, I don't know, your own brand, basically.
Thank you. I feel super lucky to be able to get to do that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know many other jobs in the world where you get to just show up and do whatever you want. So
it's a nice kind of freedom, right?
It really is.
Well, it's new episodes every single Sunday. Don't forget to like, rate, share, review, and subscribe. And you can get at me on Instagram. So my personal is Sia Steph. Or you can get at me on my podcast page, which is Stripped by Sia on Instagram, and also on Twitter. I'm getting more active on there because it's just a lot more free. And that's pretty much it. There'll be another new episode next week. But Serena, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure. You're the sweetest little thing, and I cannot wait to see your creations for Stripper Olympics next month.
Thank you for having me on. It's a blast.
Thanks again. Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to Strip by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia, artwork by Maria Bellandarama, music by Ted D, and photography by Ian Dabern.